we got some more stuff we can do things with. We're going to be working on the Jeep today because it's been raining nonstop for about the past week, and I'm going to need a boat here soon to get around. And the only vehicle that's dry and inside is the Jeep, so that's the one that's getting tinkered on. So we're going to have a little fun. So we gotta do a couple things today. We gotta make this thing easier to climb in because anybody that's height challenged struggles, especially Ellie. She's gotta basically like climb into this thing. So I got some super cheap step sides for it. They were like the second cheapest ones I could find on Amazon. And the only reason I didn't go for the absolute cheapest was because those went straight across, and these are supposed to have kind of like a little V down to make them an even lower step. And I think they looked cool. So we'll see. They were very affordable though. I'll put the price and stuff in the description on the video, but I want to say they were like $175, I think, for the pair, which is pretty good. So we're going to put those in. Mechanically, we don't have a lot to do, but we got to get the battery out and see if we can figure out what's going on with that battery temperature sensor so this thing will charge properly. But I have been running it on a charger for the last couple days, so the battery is full, which is good. And then, I think since the weather is not ideal for it at all, we're going to do some paint touch-up. We've got these areas. There's a couple spots. I mean, it's a Jeep. A, it was rolled over once, and B, it's been used. So it's got some stuff like chips and dents and dings here. We got some stuff on the hood. There's a few on the sides that we're going to touch up. And to do that, I have some, it's paint and a clear coat in like a pen applicator, and they're BMW Alpine White, I believe. Because it was a touch-up from another project, which is probably close to Jeep White. I mean, those are very similar. So we're going to give it a go. It'll be better than rust color, which is really all I care about. Not looking for perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to look all right. It needs to look good. So we're going to throw that on, and then we're going to go and do like a full fluid check, kind of go through everything. Make sure this thing is actually up to snuff before we really start putting it on the road a lot. So let's go ahead and dive on in and unbox these side steps and see how we can mock these up, see if they even come with hardware, and what we're going to need to get them on. Alright, let's see what $175 on eBay will get you. It's like a fun unboxing video, huh? People like those, I think. I know Ellie loves watching other kids open toys, which I find odd, but hey. I like spending a bunch of money on cars. People think that's odd too. So, to each his own. Those are meatier than I thought they would be, actually. I also opted for the ones that say since 1941 on them, because that seemed cool. The real test is, yes, hardware boxes. Awesome. Instructions and stickers, and that's it. So we can delete this box. And the nice thing is, since this Jeep's so small, I've got plenty of room in the garage. All right. Contents. 2 side steps. 12 button head socket cap bolt screws. 12 split lock washers. 12 flat washers. 12 flange hex lock nuts. And optional additional mounting brackets. Hopefully it comes with all of that stuff. All right, let's see what we got here. Remove factory side steps. No. Keep factory hex head flange bolt screws. We are ready to install our product. First, distinguish the mounting brackets. Install the side step to your vehicle with the factory hex head flange bolts. Tighten up those bolts. Repeat the same procedure on the other side. Well, that's not going to work. I guess we're going to have to take this thing apart and see what's what. And here's a fancy diagram showing the brackets. It's color, which is nice. Overall, it is not the worst instructions I've seen from something off Amazon, but not the most informative. But we'll see what we get into. Side note, my garage smells terrible. Because I put some rat poison down the other day because I heard one scurrying around and didn't find it until like a week later, and it was pretty gnarly and super dead and half decomposed in the corner of the garage over there. And so I've since gotten rid of it, but that smell lingers a little bit. So we've got that working for us today. But at least we're indoors and dry, and I have a garage, so I'm not gonna complain too much. Put our fancy stickers up there for later. So I don't know which one goes on which side, so we're gonna have to figure that out. And even the brackets are powder coated, which is nice. So like this one says C2, this says C1. So let's see if the other side, let's see if this box goes for this side, if that's what makes sense. Here's A1. Hardware. The bag's got a little hole in it, and there's one out. So we've got A1, A2, B2, C1, B1. So we got B1 and 2, C1 and 2, A1 and 2. So my assumption is A1, B1, C1, and then these go on this one on the other side of the truck. Place the side with the larger hole facing up. So it would go like this. Okay. I'm wearing a nice shirt that I just got from the Smithsonian last weekend when we went to DC. So I guess my goal for today is to not get horribly dirty. We're learning Jeep stuff. So we're also learning if this kit is worth the crap or not. So far the quality seems good. Directions are very lacking, but honestly the quality looks nice. The powder coating looks good. They did a good even job on it. There's no spots where it's missing, at least. That doesn't mean that it's actually going to be a thick or quality powder coating. Time's going to tell on that. But let's get real. For a Jeep that's going to be mostly, Kayla driving it around, it's not going to get driven a whole lot, and it's not going to get beat up a whole lot. So I don't think they have to be super rugged to do the job for us. I'm thinking we'll finger tighten everything. See if we can kind of get a fitment on it. Maybe put some jack stands under it or something. Get it up in there. And then once we have, I think there's enough room that we can actually bolt everything up and then go through and tighten everything individually after, because it's got quite a bit of room for play. So those are all finger tight on there. These actually look really good. I'm gonna get you in here so you can see them. So the lighting in my garage is terrible, so sorry for that. Oh, bummer. We do have a chip out right here. And actually, it's not a chip. It's just not powder coated all the way across. And pretty thin, like I figured. But that piece just wasn't done. It's not like it chipped off. It's not fractured. It's like smooth on the edge. But that's okay. Like I said, they're cheap. But honestly, they look pretty nice. And I think they're correct. We just got to figure out how they fit. Yeah, I like them. So it's gonna basically do like this. I don't get where it would bolt to. Maybe that, the body mount. That's what it is. It bolts to the body mounts. Okay, so that does look pretty correct. They line up at least. Okay. So it's the actual body to frame mounts that have to come off. I don't really love the idea of having to unbolt my body mounts, but I guess that's what's got to be done. So that's got to come off. 1, 2, 3 on each side. That's why this pocket's bigger up top, because it's going to fit around the rubber insulator. And then they'll bolt back on, and then these can bolt firm to adjust it forward, backwards. The one thing I need to do is I'm going to assemble both sides and fit them both up here and see which one centers more, because clearly they're not the same. It's got an overrun, and I don't know if that overrun should be to the front or the back. And the pictures don't really tell me either. So it would go like we have it. But we'll put them both together and make sure. Following directions is not my strong suit. But yeah, let's just kind of mock it up. Sure. So when this one was, I guess, laser etched out, this one's got like the outline, but it's not punched all the way out. I can kind of wiggle it. I think if I wiggle it like a loose tooth and then bam, there we go. So there's my one gripe with the build quality, I guess. Otherwise solid. So if you're watching my videos, it's probably not because you like the finest quality in things. It's because you like the cheapest option of things. So this Jeep, like I said, I'm trying to build as cheap as possible. Most of the stuff that we're going to put on it is like Amazon quality, right? If Temu had Jeep stuff, I'd probably look on there. So hopefully you guys find it interesting to see, you know, how cheaply you can get some of this stuff and modify it. Kind of a test to see, is the cheap stuff really a whole lot different in quality than the expensive stuff? For beater rock sliders that are really only going to be functional to enter and exit the vehicle, I think cheap is fine. I really don't see the need to spend $500 on a set of these things. Some of them were like $1,000 for a set of these things. For honestly just a step, you know. I mean, I don't even, the seats in the car I wouldn't even spend $1,000 on. And you're on those a whole lot more than you are these side steps. So I just figure get the value stuff where you can, spend the real money where you should. And curious to see if it pans out, if you guys agree, and how the end result comes out. Have you see what side 2 looks like fitted on this side. See if it lines up with the body mounts at all. Not even close. So definitely it's the other way around. So this one we're going to go ahead and just set on the other side over here. Oh yeah, like a glove. So that's going to sit here. Let's go ahead and do the passenger side first. So first things first, we've got to try and remove one of these body mounts and see how that goes. I'm not sure how this is threaded on the other side, if it's like a welded on nut or what. I ain't never done this before. We're just going to pull one out and see. Okay, yeah, so it looks like that is just welded in, so we don't have to worry about it spinning. So let's take them all out and then try and just put the middle one on to hold it up while we do the ends. Man, this one's tight. Of course, we have to assume these may not have ever been off. Well, that's not true. They would have had to have been off when the body lift went on, because this thing's got what appears to be like an 1.5 inch body lift and what I think is probably maybe a 3-inch suspension lift, but we'll have to pull some part numbers on it to know that for sure. But it's definitely got both a body and a rough country, some type of rough country suspension lift. This one's easier. Not sure if that's good or bad. Sure is clean under here. Don't even need to rebuild this frame while we're underneath. It's already clean. And this thing looks damn near brand new. A little rust on that bolt itself, but probably just because water sits in these rubber pockets. No big deal. All right, so those are all out. Let's go ahead and mock up the middle one. I'm going to try and just lift it up manually without needing some kind of a jack or something. But I might have to jack it up if I can't hold it that long. Let's see. Well, that's a little concerning. Doesn't seem to want to go. Why doesn't it want to go? I wonder if this is too tall. I can't imagine I'm supposed to remove that. It seems weird. Seems like it should belong. But I guess maybe it doesn't. It doesn't fit all the way in there, that's for sure. I can't slip it inside. And even if I could, why would I? I wouldn't do anything at that point. Let's see what happens if we just delete it. that was my good kneecap. Well, that's finger tight. I guess that's how she's gonna go. That one on there. Well, let's see. Oh, run away! Come back here. Let's just get a little more snug. I don't want to tighten it all the way until I get them all going. So sometimes as I'm recording these videos, I ask myself, is this even interesting enough for you to watch? And you'd be surprised how often I record stuff and then just don't do anything with it because I decide probably not. This has fallen into that category. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably do it and see what you guys think, but I could kind of take it or leave it, you know? It's just bolting stuff up, but maybe my doing it first will give somebody the confidence to do it on their own, and there's some value to that. Or maybe it'll just help you decide which product you want to actually invest in and purchase yourselves. So there's some value to that. But sometimes I'm just like, we'll let that one just stay in the box, you know? That's probably how it's supposed to sit. Yeah, looks right to me, I guess. It would be really close to the body line if that body lift wasn't on it, how they showed in the picture. So I think that is, in fact, the correct installation. We're going to go ahead and tighten these up all the way, send them home. And because this metal is hollow in the center, we're really going to tighten it down until we start to smash that pocket, you know? You'll know it's tight when the actual mount starts to give on itself just a little bit. Need to get a little louder in here because I just kicked on the AC. It's getting hot. But side one is on there. And looks pretty good, I think. Still got to tighten everything up snug, but that's how it's going to be. I think that looks pretty nice on there. Let's back up a little. Beep. Yeah, I dig it. Let's tighten her up, hit the other side. If I was smart, I'll size up what size those bolts are before I stuff them on there. Start with a 1/2 inch, see if that's it. It is, in fact, a 1/2 inch. Let's see what size Allen head. Let's start with, what is this, a 5? It is a 5. Today's a lottery ticket buying day. I guessed both right. First try. Didn't even cheat off camera neither. Pretty snug to start, like tight but not manhandled. I'm gonna go all the way down and then I'll come back and do a final snugging. So far my shirt's still clean, so well, that'll win. Oh, someone painted the brake calipers red for racing. For a minute. Man, you can tell this tire's brand new. It's still got, there's a number stamping in the face of the tread. It's still there. That tire's probably not got... I bet that tire only has the miles on it I drove it home with and what he drove it home from the tire shop with. Oh, so while I'm under here, I guess I can, I'll tell you guys a little story about this one, give you some more background. Bittersweet story, actually. Bought it from an older couple, probably in their, I don't know, mid-60s, mid to early 60s. And guy bought it so him and his wife could run it around to the beach and down Volano and stuff. They're like in the St. Augustine, Florida area. And he said when they first got it, they used it a pretty good bit. They drove it around like every weekend and had fun with it. And the idea was it was supposed to be his wife's little fun car, which is the same thing Kayla wanted to do with it. So that was kind of nice. But she was recently, I guess last year, diagnosed with dementia. And he said it's gotten to the point where she gets really confused when they go to unusual places or go out. So they didn't really go out and take the car out anymore because he couldn't really put her in the car because she would freak out in the car, which is really sad. And it kind of really struck a chord with Kayla because her father's also going through issues and complications with dementia. So it's as soon as he started talking about that and telling us the backstory, I could tell we were coming home with his car because I could see it on Kayla's face. But it is nice to kind of give the car a good home and continue to use it in the way that they would have wanted to use it. So, you know, it kind of gets a continuation of its life on that. And I think they were happy seeing it go to somebody that was going to enjoy it and use it in the same way they wanted to. And so very bittersweet, but that's why this thing had such little miles on it. He said that basically he's kind of her full-time caregiver now. So he's not going out and working. They weren't traveling. They weren't vacationing. So he said the truck was just sitting in his garage. He said if it was not in the garage, it was outside with a car cover that he also gave me for it. And that's why when I bought it, in the past 3 months, it only driven like 13 miles. The oil change sticker showed that it was due by time, but only had about 13 miles since it was last changed. The oil looks brand new. Because they literally just weren't driving it. It was just sitting. Which is good and bad. I mean, it makes it a low miles car, but also, you know how that goes. Sometimes not driving them much brings out their own issues as well. But so that's why this one's such a low miles example. It's got just over 100,000 on it, and is in really good shape. And being an older guy, obviously he didn't trash the thing and beat up on it. He was very responsible with the car, so it hasn't seen a lot of abuse, which is good. The other funny thing with this car too is I went the day before to go look at a Bronco, like an 85 Bronco, in this neighborhood way out in St. Augustine, and about a 45-minute drive, 45 minutes to an hour drive for me, depending on traffic, and ended up not buying it. And then the next day, saw this listing, went to go look at it in the exact same neighborhood, 2 blocks up the road. So it just seemed kind of like it was meant to be, you know. Well, there we go. That's side 1 is on, looking good, fully installed and tight. No play in it. I mean, the only play is just in the rubber where it mounts to the body wiggling. Looks really good. I'm happy with that for basically what, $80-something a side. That looks really nice. Let's go ahead and repeat on the other side. So you've seen this once already. So what do you say we speed her up a little bit and let you watch this side with some fun music? And I'll go ahead and knock this thing out.
driver's side done. Man, those look really good. Oh yeah.
So my shirt's not too dirty, but sure is sweaty. That'll wash off. Whew. Got her on. It's all secure. Fits good. Looks good. Both sides are nice and tight now. So we can move on to our next thing, which is actually going to be the battery. We're going to go ahead and yank it out and see what we need to do to get that sensor bypassed. I ordered, they have not come in yet, but they're due in today, so by the time this video is done, we should have them in hand. I ordered some 13K ohm resistors, because instead of replacing that sensor, which is like 50 bucks, again, doing this on a budget, right? I got a 100 pack, I think, of resistors for like $6 on Amazon. And all we got to do is just trick that sensor into thinking the battery is at the right temperature, because it's going to be. Let's get real. If the thing's really getting hot enough that it's melting and overheating that battery, we got other issues going on. The alternator shouldn't put out that much voltage anyway unless the regulator's bad. So I'm going to bypass it, save myself about 40 bucks there, and keep this thing on the Amazon diet. I got COVID Kayla coming in to see my handiwork and see what she thinks.
Oh, wow.
What you think?
It's very rugged.
Very rugged.
It's sturdy. I love it. I thought it was just going to be a single bar. I didn't know it was going to... This is cool.
Full length.
Can I try it?
Try it. You can open it from the outside.
I know.
There you go.
Ready?
Yeah, just,
Like
and then you can use that hand grab up top
Yeah.
too to help you get in.
So much easier.
Sweet, and it didn't break off, so I did good.
Are you trying to say I'm fat?
No, I'm trying to say I assembled it.
That's the right answer. Thank
See,
you.
folks, you can be taught. So you approve?
I approve.
Yeah, came out good, I think. Excellent fit, good finish. They look pretty quality. I like it.
I love you. You too.
Oh, thanks. All right, now I get to yank this battery out of here. All right, I had to get some Jeep juice. And we're about to do probably, this is my favorite feature of Jeep life, I think. I believe they did this because you're under the hood quite often on this particular vehicle. But check this out. Bam! Full tiltage. Now we got room for days for this battery that has studs on the retainers that are way too long. Let's see. There's 3 nuts on the one side, so that's cool. Check this out. So this retainer goes up almost, beep, almost touches the plugs for the PCM, which is not ideal, and way too high. And this side is triple nutted for extra protection, I guess. So we're just going to loosen that up, lift it off, and then the other side I should be able to just kind of slip down also. Yeah. And then this should just kind of weasel out of here. Boom. Retainer out. We're going to cut those studs down before we reinstall to make reinstall easier. I like this. Nice, good, actually tight battery cables. That's rare for me. We're going to loosen these, pull the battery out, and then that battery sensor, I believe, is right under the battery tray. So we'll see if we can get to that. So this is the sensor. It just presses down in here. It's just a little temperature resistor, basically. And it looks like it's actually like stuck and sandwiched under the battery tray. Makes me wonder if that wire's just pinched off and that's why it's not working. that wire is pretty pinched in there. It's as flat can be. Could be the problem all along. Could shorten this and maybe get it to work. Let's do that. Let's cut this section out, butt splice it back together. And we're not even going to put this under the battery again. We're just going to put it, just tuck it somewhere back in the back and see if my check engine light goes away. My workbench is all dirty. I had all the parts from the bumperettes of the Duster sitting up here, and they were covered in that Georgia mud. We're going to go ahead and test on this guy while we're here. I'm just curious if it's actually bad, you know? So we're going to go to resistance. It's working. One contact on that side, one contact on that side. 9.96K, which seems correct. I'm going to go ahead and cut that and resplice it anyway and just see if that resistance value changes at all. Of course, anytime you cut into something, you risk a bad connection and making it worse, but 9.51. It's changed a little bit. It actually went down. So we've done all we really need to. We got the sensor out of there. I'm just going to dangle him off to the side for now. Throw the battery back in. Let's cut these mount nubs down. Put that all back together. Put it back in here. Huh, interesting. There's a distributor hold down with just like a sensor in it. I guess you must be able to adjust. I wonder if you're able to adjust your timing through that. See that? It's like a distributor hold down with just like the sensor in it. If that's the case, that's pretty nifty on them. Obviously, they've used this engine for a long, long time. This motor's been around since way back when these were carbureted, since the 80s, maybe even the 70s, they've been using the inline 4-liter. So that's kind of cool. What do we got here? Something spliced in and loom here. I might trace that back. Put on that loom. Goes to that red and black cable. Let's chase that over here. Red and black cable, which is totally melted on the header, so that's nice. Oxygen sensor. So they've got a melted oxygen sensor cable. So we'll add that to the list. We can fix that. We'll cut it, shorten it, reroute it better than they did. It's odd that it runs all that way. Jeep life, very similar to Mopar life. It's all makes you scratch your head, but we're here. Let's fix that before we put the battery back in, huh? Yeah, see that? It's just totally melted and into those wires. I guess we can pin them and see if they're working. All right, we re-ran and rerouted. Oh my! A couple of those O2 sensors. We zip tied a bunch of the cabling out of the way. You like that butt shot? Is that nice? Got them away from the exhaust everywhere as best as possible. So I think we should be in the clear now. We're gonna just trim off all of these zip tie whiskers we left behind everywhere. And then that problem should be dealt with. We retaped those wires up. They weren't all the way through. They were just a little exposed. So we got all that covered up, prettied up. There is 4 oxygen sensors on this thing. It's only got 6 cylinders. How many oxygen sensors do you really need? I know oxygen sensors aren't cheap. Funny thing is, these all look almost brand new. So clearly they were, I think they were chasing an issue. He told me when I bought it that the check engine light was because of an oxygen sensor, which seemed reasonable. So I said, okay, sure, no big deal. But when I checked the codes, it comes up as some weird code like dealer installed safety device or something like that. When you look up that code though for Jeeps, it's that battery temp switch. So he may have replaced all those for no reason. But anywho, everything's addressed under here as far as that sensor goes, as far as cleaning up those cables go. I don't see any other surprises or issues or anything that I think needs to be addressed. There's the rest of that loom running down to the hella light, so that is what that is. A lot of wiring just for those little things in there, but so we know that's the oxygen sensor. Let's just check all of our vacuum lines, make sure all those look good while we're under here. Make sure nothing's disconnected that's obvious at least. I'm not seeing any red flags anywhere. It does still have a bunch of the emission stuff, but that's okay. It's got like the charcoal canister and whatnot, but not super worried about it. There is a open port on this charcoal canister without a hose to connect it to anything that I can see. But it might just be the breather. So again, honestly, not real worried about like vacuum or the charcoal canister and the emission stuff, as long as it's not going to affect how it runs. Missing the top cover for the loom for the fuel injector, so at some point I'd like to get one of those from a junkyard. You know, it's got like that little plastic tray that snaps over top of the wires. The top of it's not there, so don't love that. I'm gonna get the vacuum and vacuum all these acorns and stuff off the top of the intake manifold. It's like a squirrel or something was just chewing away at some nuts on top. Alternator seems to be in good shape, seems to be tight. These headlights have been replaced and they have adapters, like they've been modified probably to maybe a more modern year light setup. His listing said something about it having like JK lights or something. I don't know. They're round. I mean, and it came with round lights, so I don't know how different it can really be. But it looks fine there. This is the only thing that's not plugged into something that looks like it used to be plugged into something. I just don't know what that would go to. It's like taped up almost from the factory here. I don't see any red flags anywhere. I don't see any issues. It does have a fan shroud. The thing seemed like it was running hot, but apparently these things just like to run at like, I mean, this thing was probably running at like 190 something degrees, but 195, something like that, but I guess that's normal for these things. I'm used to having like 180, 185 degree thermostats. This thing was sitting just over 190, but apparently that's pretty typical of these. So the oil level's full, looks good. It's a little low on coolant. It's at the add on the reservoir. I'll just put some water in it. Brakes are, if anything, over full. Master cylinder for the clutch, if anything, is over full. It's even got windshield washer fluid in it. That's pretty nice. Fancy. And it works. I did test it. I mean, it's a pretty small window, and the wipers are like 10-inch wipers. They look like jokes. You know how like you have the back wiper on cars you never use? It's got like 2 of those on the front. So that's kind of cool. That's that. Let's throw this battery back in and check for that check engine light again. We're just going to modify our brake hold down here. Boom. Got those shortened up and looking reasonable. Took a bunch off both sides. Battery's back tightened up. Everything else is secure. So now we can see if our check engine light still remains. Alright, so we got the AC running, but we got the garage door cracked for safety. But also I don't want to sweat. So we're going to fire this thing up and see if that check engine light is still there. 100,572. All right, clutch in. Little surgy at first, but it's probably relearning everything now that we've disconnected that battery. No check engine light yet. I honestly am not used to this whole car having a check engine light thing. Normally I wouldn't care. The only reason I care is because it's got the stupid orange light. If I can't figure it out, we'll just pull the bulb. Nothing else I've got probably even has a bulb that works. She sounds peppy. No light. We'll have to take her around the block to make sure, but we might be golden. Alright, so that's good. We can shut this back down. And now we can do our fancy body work. And I'm going to start by not prepping the rust area at all and just going straight over it with paint. We're just going to right over. Ooh, that is like almost an identical color match. How about that? That's actually gonna look real good. It's a better color match than the color that they tried to touch up with before. This looks basically identical to what's on here. So maybe Jeep and BMW are just swapping paint recipes. I don't know. I'm trying to think why I had BMW Alpine White. Oh, Kayla's mom's BMW. She had a little kerfuffle with a boat trailer at the park, and we had to snazz it up. Clearly, she hasn't seen my videos because she let me work on it, but that's cool. We got it looking pretty good. And the price was right. Can't beat my labor rates. This is the big one, so it's going to take a couple coats to cover, but that's alright. It says to do 2 to 3 coats. I think it's going to take at least that here. We're going right over rust, so it's not like it's just going over bare metal. It's got a lot of coverage to do. You know, I'd say there's probably 50% of you guys that probably think I'm a total hack. And there's probably 50% of you guys that are like, man, that guy's doing that himself and saving some money. And the funny thing is, you're both right. You know, to each his own. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but we're a hack compared to a fancy shop that would be doing body work and really sanding and priming and spraying this and wet sanding and really getting after it. But at the end of the day, for the money that it would cost for that, this vehicle just isn't worth spending thousands on a repaint. It's a car that only cost a couple thousand. So if you really think I'm a total hack and it drives you nuts, probably not the place for you. But those of you that are saying, well, you know, he's doing a lot for some paint and some side panels and step sides and stuff off Amazon, then welcome, you're my people. And hopefully you guys get the courage to kind of tinker and do the same stuff that I'm doing here, because it's really not that hard. I'm not anything special. I don't have any fancy tools or anything like that. I'm just getting after it. I go to Harbor Freight and I pick up the tools I need for a job if I don't have them. The tools I use a lot, I will splurge for. That's one thing I will recommend, is if you touch a tool more than once a week, it probably shouldn't have the Harbor Freight name on it. But if you touch a tool once every 6 months, or just plain once, Harbor Freight is going to do you just fine. The cheapest possible is going to do you just fine. Used off Marketplace is a great way to get some tools that you really just need for a single job. I've got kind of a hodgepodge. I have some really nice, really fancy tools. I also have some really cheap garbage tools. And I have to tell you, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two in most applications. There's really not. I'm not going to get too carried away. Again, not looking for perfection. Get the eyesores. Get the stuff that your eye draws attention to. Get the stuff that really matters. And then, who cares about the rest? I'm going to take this thing off-road and beat the ever-loving hell out of it when Kayla's not paying attention. So, what does it matter? You know? First coat down everywhere we can get to except for the hood. So we need to drop that hood and touch it up next. Our battery temp sensor, let's just throw him just right there. Fine. Perfect. Yep. That's all it is. Coming down. Got a bunch of stuff to touch up on here, so I figure I might as well drop it. If you look close, there's looks like somebody spilled almost something acidic or something right here. It's weird. It's real like splotchy where the paint's come off. There's a couple rock chips. There's a pretty good nick in that corner. We're just going to kind of go through and touch all the major spots. We got a spot back here. Someone's already done this once and didn't get as good a color match, actually, like I was saying, but it's just time again, and there's more scratches, and it's a truck that people were using, so that's okay. Second coat is on. You can see this was that big chunk out. And if I get up on it, you can tell. But honestly, from not even 2-3 feet away, it blends great. You can see where there was gouges still. Even the spot up here, it looks better. You can still see it, but it looks better than just an open spot of primer. And once we kind of do some other stuff to it to detract from it, you won't tell. This stuff, it's still drying. I just put it on, but again, same thing. It's not perfect, but if you're just looking at it from afar, it looks good and it doesn't stand out like that gray bare metal and primer. All right, we got our second coat of clear on. Look at that. You really can almost, that will clean up. That's just something on the paint. That was that spot that was just primer before. That was that deep gouge, and if you get on it, you can still see it. But again, you get back a couple feet, you can see that one because it's such a deep gouge into the paint. Look at that. I mean, overall, it looks really good. Even this terrible spot right here, once that dries and we buff it, that's going to blend really well. All the chips around the hood blended really well. This corner was all gray, bare exposed metal. That came out pretty good. Again, it's not perfect, but from 3-4 feet away, it looks pretty good. These spots that are real deep could be done again, but again, don't need perfect, need good enough. That came out really good. Really, this fender, I mean, for what it is, it looks nice. I'm not complaining with that result one bit. I think it came out really good. Boom. All back white again. Another thing that I want to do to this is take these little, ooh, those are on there tight. Whoever put those on really gave it the beans. Get a pair of pliers, crack these off. We're going to paint these guys up and give them a little more pizzazz. So we're going to go with the Ace Premium enamel. You want to be real careful with your overspray, so we're going to move this dartboard, but not do anything else because whatever. And then I'm going to give this thing a little spritz in here. I'm actually going to move you guys over here. Bam. Number 2, got it hanging up with some real fancy Romex here. Looking pretty good. I think that's going to pop nice on this black and white. Just put the second coat on these, a nice thick coat, and they are looking good. And I'd say that's probably about it for today because I am a little worn out. My torque wrenches need some adjustment. That's probably not an ideal sound. It's pretty problem is then you don't know when your torque wrench is going off because it clicks all the time. That's what happens when you wrench on stuff like this constantly and you know, beat on yourself a little more than you should. Alright, we got her out in the open on a finally dry day. Nice and overcast, but dry. So, bam, we got our fancy red hooks on there, which I think give it just enough pop, and they came out good. They're not perfect, but they look nice. Good shine to them. Got our side steps. Looking good, fitting right in. Got our red hook in the back. Yeah, I dig. So we'll get you in here and see in the daylight. You can see you can kind of tell where you can definitely tell that one because it's just so deep it stands out. But that matched pretty good. Our little spot up here, I mean, again, not perfect, but not bad. The rest of it looks great. I mean, you honestly, this stuff, it's worlds better than it was. The little chips in here, again, they're deeper, so it looks a little off, but man, I'm 5 feet away right now. She's a 5-footer. Definitely a solid 5-footer. So our initial work on the Jeep is done. We've got the paint touch-ups all done, front, back, all the way around. We added a little pop by painting our hooks on the front and back, that nice bright red color. Same paint, by the way, that we're going to be doing on the interior doors of the F100 coming up soon. We got all our stuff squared away up under the hood. We got our check engine light squared away. We got the repair done on the sensor for the battery, so that was super easy. It was just that wire was pinched and it was just too much resistance. So we got that fixed. We fixed that melted O2 sensor wire that we didn't even know was there until we looked. So that's good. What else did we do? We got her cleaned up. We got the side steps on. It'll be easier to climb in and out of this thing. I mean, we've really, we've done a lot for very little money. Paint was $8 for that can of spray paint. Side steps were like 180 bucks after tax and everything. And the touch-up paint I had in a drawer in the house. So for less than $200, we've made this thing look and kind of fit the part for us a whole lot better. I'm happy with it. Kayla's happy with it, and that goes a long way because when Mama's happy, everybody's happy. So she's ready for some new adventures. So hopefully coming up here soon. Next video will be putting this thing to the road, having some fun with it, and seeing what we can get into in our new Jeep, because Jeep life. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you got any thoughts, comments, suggestions on it, and guess we'll see you next time when we do more stuff.